Namaskar, dear colleagues. Welcome to the fourth day of the NEP 2020 PTP. As you all know, NEP basically focuses on the 5 pillars, that is affordability, accessibility, quality, equity and accountability for ensuring continual learning. We have been at Indira Gandhi National Open University. We are conducting these sessions to enable our fellow colleagues to understand what this NEP 2020 envisages. Today we have with us Dr. Srikant Mohapatra, Pro Vice Chancellor, Indira Gandhi National Open University. He doesn't need much of an introduction because anybody who will definitely know about him in the academic fraternity. He has been a Director RSD, that is Regional Services Division, and Director EMPC. So today he is going to actually talk on skilling, NEP 2020, skilling and employability, which he would be very able to explain to all of you because of his vast experience. Any questions, anything which we would be asking after he would have spoken on it, and then we will continue with the session. Sir.
Thank you, Madam. Dear colleagues, today we are discussing about the basic features of the National Education Policy 2020, and particularly our emphasis will be on skill-based education. As you all know that the National Education Policy 2020 aims at making India a knowledge superpower. It will promote knowledge economy in the 21st century. It will support the broad mission of Government of India, that is Digital India, Skill India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, in that context, we will be discussing about the features of the National Education Policy 2020, which wants to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education from the current 27% to 50% by the year 2035. The policy gives emphasis on, as Madam has just now told, on access, equity, inclusion, affordability, flexibility, autonomy, holistic, multidisciplinary education, skill-based education, value-based education, and to integrate school education with higher education, to integrate vocational education with higher education, and to ensure the employability of the students who are passing out from the universities and colleges. The policy says that till date, our higher educational system is working in silos as separate entities. We have regular universities, we have technical universities, we have health universities, law universities, distance education mode open universities, we have private universities, public universities. So universities across the country are known in different names. But the National Education Policy says that there is only one higher educational institution, and that higher educational institution is meant for holistic, multidisciplinary, skill-based, value-based education to be provided across disciplines through face-to-face mode, regular mode and distance education mode. The policy also talks about structural reforms in higher education. And by structural reforms, we mean that there will be a Higher Education Council of India, and under the Higher Education Council of India, we will have a National Higher Education Regulatory Council, we will have a National Accreditation Council, then there will be a General Education Council and a Higher Education Funding Council. So, lot of structural changes are also suggested in the National Education Policy 2020. It also talks about a 4-year undergraduate degree program instead of a 3 years degree program, and the 4-year degree program will be either research based or it will be a honors degree. And when it will be a 4-year degree program, it also suggests a 1-year master degree program. If it is a 3 years bachelor's degree program, then 2 years master degree program. But at the same time, the policy says that the National Higher Education Qualification Framework will be aligned with the National Skill Qualification Framework. So my emphasis today for the next 20-25 minutes will be on skill-based education and how the skill-based education will lead to employability for the youth of this country. We all know the policy also reiterates that 21st century skills, that is communication skills, problem solving skills, decision making skills, analytical skills, etc., are as important as the domain knowledge for the students to make them employable. The policy, National Education Policy tells us that there are many jobs which are unskilled, which will be taken over by the machine in the 21st century because of the progress that we have made in artificial intelligence, in machine learning, in data science, in Internet of Things, in robotics, etc. So therefore, a word of caution has been given by the National Education Policy that since machine will take over the unskilled work, we need to have skilled workforce in this country. And how to have the skilled workforce in this country? What is the present scenario of skill education in the country? The present scenario is not very encouraging because vocational education has not been mainstreamed in India. Vocational education and school education, vocational education and higher education are running as parallel, and there is no scope for upward mobility or vertical mobility from vocational education to higher education. Therefore, the National Education Policy says that vocational education is to be integrated with skill education, skill education is to be integrated with higher education, and these are essential for seamless movement of our learners from one stream to the other stream. And keeping that in mind, the National Education Policy says that by 2025, which is not very far off, by 2025, 50% of the students in school education as well as in higher education should have exposure to vocational education. And it says that from the middle school level up to the secondary school level, the students or the learners will have exposure to vocational education, and vocational education like physical education, art and crafts, along with science, mathematics, social science, language will become part of the secondary education in this country at the secondary level. And when they come to the higher education will become holistic, multidisciplinary, skill-based and value-based. That means skill education will become an integral part of higher education. It will not run as a separate structure in higher education. It will become a part of the higher education in the entire higher education ecosystem of the country. And for integrating skill education with higher education, the National Skill Credit Framework, NSQF, will play an important role, and so also the National Higher Education Skill Framework will play an important role, because the National Higher Education Skill Framework will be aligned with the National Skill Education Framework, NSQF, and then only the students will have movement from one stream to the other stream. Now, keeping all these things in mind, the National Education Policy says that there will be a national credit framework, and that credit framework will help in integrating skill education with school education. That is, skilling and schooling will go simultaneously, and skill education, school education will be integrated with higher education. So a national credit framework is the need of the hour, and it starts from class 5. That means level 1 of the national credit framework will start from class 5. By the time the student will go to class 8, they will be in level 2. Class 10 will be level 3. Class 12 will be level 4. So that means 1 to 12 will be the period of schooling. And within these 12 years, the students will be crossing 4 levels of learning. And then from 12 onwards, it will be called as higher education. So 4.5, if 12 is 4, level 4, then 4.5 will be undergraduate certificate program. 5 will be undergraduate diploma program. 5.5 will be 3 years undergraduate degree program. 6 will be 4-year undergraduate program. Similarly, 6.5 will become the first year of the master degree program or the second year of the master degree program if it is a 3 years program. Bachelor's degree 3 years, then 6.5 will become a master degree program of 2 years. And by the time you reach level 8, it will be a PhD program, and level 7 will be MTech and MSc program and other professional programs. So from level 1 to level 8, an attempt has been made to integrate skill education, to integrate school education with the higher education system of this country. And when we come up to higher education, the credits will be valued in terms of hours. That is, 1 credit will be 30 study hours. And in 1 semester of 6 months duration, one has to earn 20 credits. In 1 year, the student will be earning 40 credits. For a 3 years bachelor degree program, 40 credits means 1200 hours per year. And in 3 years, it has to be 3600 hours. So a scientific method has been thought of for integrating technical education with general education, for integrating skill education with higher education, and integrating school education and vocational education with higher education in this country. This is the contribution of the National Education Policy 2020 before us. So keeping all these things in mind, we have to have industry relationship. Recently, you must be aware that UGC, University Grants Commission, has proposed for a new scheme called the Professors of Practice. Now, what is that Professor of Practice? Professor of Practice need not be the general professors of the universities, assistant professor or associate professor or professors. Professor of Practice will be those people who have the skills, the requisite experience, the industry exposure to join the higher education mainstream so that they will be able to align our higher education system with the industry requirements. As on today, in the year 2022, there is a study which says that more than 100 million skilled workforce are required in vital sectors of our economy, which is not happening. So unless skill is integrated into our higher education curriculum, it will be very difficult for us to make our students employable. So, dear colleagues, keeping all these things in mind, it is proposed that to make India the skill capital of the world, we have to have skilled workforce. And to have skilled workforce, it is very essential that skill education becomes an integral part of the higher education. Skill education becomes an integral part of the school education in our country. Then only the India will be able to have the requisite number, though we have the highest number of youth in the world in terms of workforce, but what is lacking in India is skill education, and what is lacking in India is skill workforce. So keeping that in mind also, the University Grants Commission has recently come out with a new scheme called apprenticeship training for our learners. And apprenticeship training scheme has already been introduced by the All India Council of Technical Education, and apprenticeship guidelines have also been formulated by the University Grants Commission, where they want that apprenticeship training, field training, industry exposure will become a part and parcel of our higher education system if the students are to get a degree. And the General Education Council, which is one of the verticals of the 4 verticals that I have just referred to, has been given the responsibility to identify the learning outcome of each program or the graduate attributes. And these learning outcomes will definitely give not only equal emphasis on the general knowledge or the domain knowledge, but it will also give equal importance to the skill education and ensure that the skill education is aligned with the National Skill Qualification Framework. The National Skill Qualification Framework will define the Indian standard occupations, and these Indian standard occupations will also be aligned with the international occupational standards designed and developed by the International Labour Organization. So what the National Education Policy aims at is not only making India the skill capital, but aligning our skill education with the international standard. So starting from the school to the higher education system, the policy talks about skilling and schooling, skilling and university education system. Now I'll tell you some of the things that we have done as far as the implementation of the skill framework is concerned. Friends, we have almost 15,000 industrial training institutes in the country, but these industrial training institutes are providing vocational education to the students, and our school education has got nothing to do with the vocational education provided, because school education is guided by one ministry and the vocational education is guided by the other ministry. The National Education Policy says that since school education is to be integrated with vocational education, so general college school should also get the benefit of the vocational training provided by the ITIs or the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras or the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Kendras, which are available across the country. Therefore, it is essential that our schooling system, which provides general school education, needs to be aligned with the vocational training provided by the industrial training institutes, So it will be a win-win situation for both of them. If the school is integrated with the vocational education provided by the ITIs, then ITIs infrastructural facilities will also be utilized by the general schooling system, and at the same time the National Education Policy also says that we will have skill labs which will be established in a hub and spoke model. That means it is not necessary that each school will have a skill lab. You can have a skill lab for a cluster of schools, and all these schools will have access to the skill lab. So imagine a situation where the ITIs are identified as the skill labs for a cluster of schools. You need not have to establish even skill labs in general schools. And similar is the pattern that can be implemented in higher educational system. There can be a cluster of colleges for whom a skill lab can be established, and one of the prominent engineering colleges either in the government sector or in the private sector can be identified as the skill lab for a cluster of colleges. Because the policy, one thing that is given emphasis in the policy is integration. It talks about integrating everything, because everything is now running parallel. So we are not getting the benefit of the school. If the school education is providing general education, then vocational education is provided by other institutions, and there is no link between the two. Therefore, seamless movement of the students from one institution to the other institution or one stream to the other stream is being affected. So keeping those things in mind, the National Education Policy talks about integrating a holistic and developing a holistic multidisciplinary higher education system in this country, where general education will be given emphasis, at the same time skill education will be given emphasis, and skill education need not and does not necessarily mean that only skill. It is also 21st century skills which are very essential, or the soft skills or the life skills which are very essential, the problem solving skills, the digital literacy skills, the communication skills, the problem solving skill, the time management skill, the managerial skills, the leadership skills. These are the need of the hour. If you want to integrate education 4.0 with the industry 4.0 and to take leverage or advantage of the high-end disruptive technology which I have just narrated about, the progress made in artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, data science, robotics, and similar kind of technological advancement which are coming from the industry. If they are integrated with education, then we will be able to develop a true skilled workforce in this country, which will lead India to 21st century, which will ensure that India has become a knowledge economy and India has really progressed as a knowledge society or a knowledge superpower in the world. So I think that skill is as important as general education. That is the major highlight of the National Education Policy 2020. So we'll now invite questions from the participants and see if you have any queries. Kindly feel free to put your question in the chat box, and one by one we'll try to answer those questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mohapatra, for giving such a lucid information and lecture. And I think it becomes very easy for us to understand what skilling and employability, what does NEP 2020 actually give us. Before we start with the question answers, there is an announcement that after this live session, which gets over at 4, our participating fellow teachers can view video recordings of the experts Professor Pankaj Mittal and Professor Satyakam at 4:15 p.m. on the same channel and same link. Just for convenience, I'll repeat it once again. अभी जो हमारा live टेलीकास्ट हो रहा है, इसके तुरंत बाद 4:15 बजे हमारे जो टीचर्स जो पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं इस सेशन में, वो वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग्स एक्सपर्ट्स प्रोफेसर पंकज मित्तल और प्रोफेसर सत्यकाम की 4:15 पे इसी चैनल पे, इसी लिंक पे देख पाएंगे. एंड coming back to Dr. Mohapatra's session just now, I think we all realize that what NEP actually gives us is a framework which the country should be following, because कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा थोड़ा हम सब इस NEP 2020 के कुछ खंडों को ज़रूर अपने पाठ्यक्रम में ला रहे थे, चाहे वो स्किलिंग हो, चाहे वो वोकेशनल हो, चाहे मल्टी डिसिप्लिनैरिटी हो, पर सब अलग अलग तरीके से ला रहे थे. What NEP 2020 provides us is a framework which, if we all follow, would be very beneficial for the coming generation. A very important point which has been just now told by Dr. Mohapatra is about the facilitating our students, our learners, for skilling. There will be a skilling lab, and vocational institutes are already there, but then everybody is very independent and they are not, I'll not say they don't entertain, but nevertheless it is उसी के लिए होता है जो वहाँ एडमिशन होता है. बट NEP 2020 के तहत अगर हम सब मिल के एकजुट होके इसको करें तो हमारे लर्नर्स को बहुत फ़ायदा होने वाला है, हमारे स्टूडेंट्स बहुत इसमें फ़ायदा करेंगे. और वही नहीं, हम टीचर्स भी एक्चुअली जब, क्योंकि ये तो सच है कि हम बच्चों को पढ़ाते ज़रूर हैं पर उनसे भी हम भी सीखते हैं, तो जब वो दूसरे इंस्टीट्यूट से, दूसरे लैब से पढ़ के आएंगे, समझ के आएंगे, तो वो जब अपनी नॉलेज, अपनी इन्फॉर्मेशन हमें बताएंगे तो हमको भी उससे बहुत फ़ायदा होगा, हमें भी समझ में आएगा. स्किल कोर्सेज, स्किलिंग जो है उससे हम सब थोड़ा थोड़ा वी ऑल आर फेमिलियर विद, थैंक्स टू चॉइस बेस्ड क्रेडिट सिस्टम विच वाज इम्प्लीमेंटेड अंडर द गाइडलाइंस ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटी ग्रांट्स कमीशन. उसमें सब कॉलेजेस ने, आई एम क्वाइट श्योर, मस्ट हैव बीन ऑफरिंग कोर्सेज टू ऑल देयर स्टूडेंट्स अबाउट द स्किल एनहांसमेंट कोर्सेज. इसी को एक बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल देते हुए इस NEP 2020 में लाया गया है, क्योंकि हमको एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी भी बहुत ज़रूरी है देखना, और हर किसी के लिए किसी कारणवश पॉसिबल नहीं हो पाता है कि वो अपनी पूरी पढ़ाई कर पाए. तो अगर हम इन सब चीज़ों को सही तरीके से एक बहुत सोच समझ के करें तो आई थिंक इम्प्लीमेंटिंग NEP 2020 मे नॉट बी दैट डिफ़िकल्ट. ऑफ कोर्स इट्स अ वेरी चैलेंजिंग जॉब, क्योंकि इसका बहुत बड़ा होराइजन है जिसको हमको इकट्ठा करना पड़ेगा. सो थैंक यू डॉक्टर महापात्रा फॉर गिविंग such information which is actually useful for, I am sure, all the teachers who are listening to it. We have quite a few questions now. एक बहुत अच्छा है सर, one of them question, how to register for NEP PTP?
I think you are already registered for NEP PDP, therefore you are in this channel. But I'll tell you that this NEP PDP link is available, and you can contact our regional centers, the regional directors and the other academic staff of all our 57 regional centers across the country are vigorously giving advertisement in social media platforms, in YouTube platforms. Their websites are also having this link. Their social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook are also having this link. So I request you to go to the website of the regional center of IGNOU, and you will easily get the link for registration in the NEP National Education Policy Professional Development Program 2020, which is a UGC sponsored professional development program.
Thank you, Dr. Mohapatra. Thank you for, apart from telling us about skilling and employability in NEP 2020, आपने बहुत सारे प्रश्नों का उत्तर दिया जो कि हमारे टीचर्स जो इस वक्त टीचर का अटेंड कर रहे हैं उनके दिमाग में है. तो आई होप most of the questions have been answered. अभी भी हमारे सेशंस और बाकी हैं और प्रश्न हो तो आप ज़रूर इस पे अपने डाल दीजिएगा। हम भरसक प्रयत्न करेंगे कि इसका उत्तर हम दे पाएँ। नमस्कार, थैंक यू सो मच।